And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Welcome into RBLR Sports, the show that talks about the place where the Stanley Cup lives, where the American League champions live, where the drinks are always cold and the sun is always hot. And that, of course, is Tampa Bay. And with me tonight is Musab. Musab, what is going on, my man?
It's going really well. It's another wonderful Thursday, and can't complain. It's been a great week for our Tampa Bay when it comes to football and baseball. So, and I know we have plenty to talk about. So I do look forward to that. But how are you doing, Eureka?
I'm good, man. Like you said, just been taking it all in. That we are in this time right now, sports-wise, where it's a very rare opportunity that, you know, you turn on the baseball game and it's your team in the World Series. You turn on, you know, hockey just a week or two ago and we were going deep in the playoffs and hoisting the Stanley Cup trophy. And that you turn on your team on Sunday and it's hopefully playoff bound, and they're in the right frame of mind, and they're playing the kind of football that we all are proud of, and you know, got a Hall of Famer behind a center. So it's like everything's turning up roses right now in Tampa Bay. All things considered, our winters aren't cold. We just have summer 12 months out of the year. So it's like it's pretty cool to be a resident of the Tampa Bay, right?
Absolutely, and I do want to add on, when you say you turn on your TV and you see the Rays, you know, in the World Series, you turn on your TV and you see your team in the Stanley Cup. But I do want to say, in regards to last week, you turn on your TV and you see that your team is part of the Fox Sports Game of the Week for football.
Hey,
yep.
Hey. Well, you know, the map is getting a little drawn with, finally people are understanding that, that's where Tampa Bay is. Oh, it's in Florida, right? Like you think, Florida's just Miami and Orlando. But no, hey, right in the middle of there is us over here on the West Coast. So
we're not just a vacation city. We are a sports.
Yeah, or like, you know, when you're on Madden, you're like, oh, that's the other team there, the Pirate team. Okay, cool. But like now it's like, oh no, yeah, TB12 is here, and you know, the City of Champions, right?
Absolutely.
Well, on the quest to bring the next championship to Tampa, the Rays and the Dodgers World Series is in full swing. We got 2 games down, with a third game happening this Friday night. You know, as you're listening to this show, our Tampa Bay Bucs made a statement with a blowout of the previously undefeated Green Bay Packers, and even the Tampa Bay Rowdies are on their way. They are in the Eastern Conference Finals and with a chance to go to the championship in the USL Pro. So I kind of wanted to start with our World Series Tampa Bay Rays, as they lost game 1, but they came back with a force in game 2. So what I wanted to do is get this started, is kind of go through my notebook on what happened in the first couple games for the Tampa Bay Rays. Game 1, Tyler Glasnow gets on the mound against, surefire Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw. And all Clayton Kershaw did was have an exceptional night. And I know that was the story they were trying to tell on the telecast, is that he's phenomenal. He's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. But in the playoffs, it's kind of 50-50. Well, it came up heads today, or in that game, because in 6 innings, he only gave up 2 hits. He only had 1 walk and only 1 earned run. And that was, he struck out 8 players in 6 innings. And it was just like, it's what you expect when you see Clayton Kershaw against you. You're just kind of hoping and praying that you can make a mistake turn into an opportunity, but there weren't that many mistakes by Clayton Kershaw. On the other side, Tyler Glasnow, who's been absolutely strong for the Rays, he was a mixed bag. He gave up 3 hits. You know, the good part, he gave 4 4 innings, and he got 1 out in the 5th before being pulled out. But until then, he only gave up 3 hits. He had 8 strikeouts of his own, but he had 6 walks, and all told, after it was all said and done, he gave up 6 earned runs. And the first of those was an early home run to Cody Bellinger. It was kind of in the bottom of the 4th. Your Cody Bellinger hits a 2-run home run, and then in the very next inning, little small balls finally getting played. It wasn't just a home run. Max Muncy is able to kind of hit a little fielder's choice RBI into the infield, and they score a run. And by that point, it was time to take out Tyler Glasnow, who just started strong, and then it all kind of blew apart from him in the 4th and the 5th inning. And the only thing the Rays were really able to do is, when it was 2-0, Kevin Kiermaier was able to hit a solo home run in the 5th inning, but the bullpen just couldn't stop the bleeding, and the Rays really couldn't generate a lot of base runners. I mean, they only had, like I said, 6 hits and 1 walk total. They left 3 guys on base, and that's very, very low if you're trying to manufacture when you're down 4-1 or even 2-0. So thankfully that the bullpen was only basically Josh Fleming and John Curtis that got used. Once Blake Snell got taken out of the game and they were down 4-1, they didn't have to go to Castillo, or they didn't have to go to Nick Anderson or Peter Fairbanks, or these guys that are the typical setup guys. And the other fortunate thing is, it doesn't matter if the Dodgers score 8 runs; it only counts as 1 loss. So the Rays were kind of beaten but not broken. What did you think about Game 1?
Game 1, it's this being Game 1 it is, and this is also, I just want to add, this is the first time in a while that are both battling against each other.
Battle of Behemoths, yeah.
I feel like everyone was definitely in for a treat, and it's 2 number 1 seeds from kind of both sides, so it's a little interesting, and you don't really know what's coming ahead. And I do agree with you what you said about Tyler Glasnow. It was he had a little on and off, but there wasn't I can't highlight too much other than the fact that, unfortunately, as a Rays fan, Kershaw was on fire.
Yeah.
He was really in his mojo, and I mean, at least as of right now, they're just they're not really giving in to anyone. Fortunately, Game 2 was a lot better.
Hey, absolutely. Clayton Kershaw, I mean, that was the thing that I guess when we were playing the Yankees, right, it was like they had Garrett Cole. And outside of Garrett Cole, it was like we like the matchup pretty favorably for the Rays. With Clayton Kershaw, you're that worry has to be there. That, like, I know he's had disappointing World Series games, but you don't expect that. You expect him to show up and be a professional. And so for the first 4 innings, or for the first 3 innings, it was kind of pretty much neck and neck. And it was just that little bit that they were able to get over on Tyler until they got him out. But I think all of the things that I was fearful of, or at least disappointed in Game 1, Game 2 was the complete opposite of that. And so with Game 2, you have Blake Snell versus Tony Gonsolin. But Blake Snell, I think, is a complete mismatch against the Dodgers lineup. I mean, You saw it with this performance. I mean, all that Blake was able to do was pitch a complete classic game. Like he's not a guy that's going to throw 120 pitches and go 8 or 9 innings, but for the 4 to 5 or from 4 to 6 innings is what you expect to get out of Blake Snell. He threw 88 pitches over 4 2/3 innings, but he had a no-hitter going until the 5th. He only gave up 2 hits. They ended up getting 2 runs. He had 4 walks, but he had 9 strikeouts in 4 2/3 innings. So that's huge. We have a guy that can go kind of toe-to-toe with Clayton Kershaw for a little bit, but then we reload. We cock the shotgun, and we've got another Cy Young winning pitcher that gets on the mound. Then, where the Rays couldn't get on base and couldn't get the hits generated in Game 1, well, guess who decides to show up to the party, and that's Brandon Lau. We've been waiting for him to have a breakout game, and boy, did he come through with flying colors. In the top of the first, the Rays get their own early home run, little solo home run off Gosselin, and the hook was quick after that. And then it just basically turned into a bullpen game for the Dodgers after that. All told, the Dodgers ended up using 7 pitchers. Gonsolin went. He went an inning and one more guy, but he didn't look the same after giving up that home run to Brandon Lau. So this was the outpouring of offense for the Rays. In the top of the 4th, Joey Wendell gets a 2-run double off the rookie sensation Dustin May. And then Brandon Lau comes back up and hits a 2-run home run to go up 5-0. And at that point, Snell was on his no-hitter mode. The Rays are up by 5 runs, and it's just now we're just kind of coasting to the end of the game. But the Dodgers did make it interesting towards the end. I mean, I remember watching the game and kind of, you have a guy throwing a no-hitter, and you're up by 5 runs, and you're just like, well, this is going to be, unless it's a historic collapse, this is going to be pretty smooth sailing. So, but you blink, and all of a sudden now it's Chris Taylor hitting a 2-run home run of his own off of Blake Snell, and that was like, oh no, because now they start putting on base runners against Blake, and you're like, oh no, is the bullpen going to kind of bleed out again? And it was a little shaky, but they were able to right the ship. And between Joey Wendell hitting another RBI, there was, at that point, by the time the Dodgers were putting some runs on the board, it was pretty much over, and we're just kind of trading outs for runs. Between the 6th and the 8th inning, it was they put on a couple home runs. Will Smith had a home run and Corey Seager had a home run, but once Loop comes in the 8th, he's just tossing heat, and Castillo comes in the 9th and makes the save with a strikeout to end the game. The Rays, it wasn't as comfortable as it should have been when they were up by 5 runs, but once again, a win is a win. As long as you get there, it doesn't matter how many you score, as long as you get those 27 outs, and the Rays are able to even the series at 1 game apiece. I was happy that it was kind of a complete reversal of fortune from Game 1 to Game 2. Kind of, what were your overall thoughts on Game 2?
Game 2 was looking really good. I just want to start out with what stood out to me with the first 2 games. First, but I do want to emphasize a little more about Game 2, is just how much deeper, the Rays lineup is looking, especially when Brandon Lau and, Joey Wendell are definitely, they're hot. Tampa Bay has gotten through 3 playoff rounds behind, really good pitching, and someone like Randy Arozarena also kind of putting the team on his back with, plenty of home runs. But it just seems like, every inning has been every kind of inning in the start hasn't been too hot, which is okay. I understand, maybe that's just how the Rays are. But, you know, Brandon Lau has been, he broke out with 2 homers in game 2, and then, Wendell, on the other hand, has, he hit a rocket, and he, pulled a double. And even just with, Austin Meadows and Yandy Diaz, each having some nice hits. And I'm starting to notice, as I wasn't noticing him before, but Manuel Margot, I do like, how he's definitely showing that, he can definitely contribute to, the team, especially in this World Series. Someone I would, I'm not expecting much out of him, but I'm also not expecting him to now, based on what I've been seeing, is not for him to kind of be screwing up or maybe, choking. He's definitely doing really well. And then even with, the first 2 games, but second game kind of really confirmed this thought, is just, I don't think this is gonna be some low scoring, hit for hit kind of, home run or die, series, as maybe, we were, or anyone was really thinking, being it's the number 1 seeds on both ends. We've seen a lot more offense than, anyone was maybe anticipating. But also, my second thing is it's gonna be a really fun battle. This isn't something that it's rather intense, and as I mentioned, something like low scoring, where it's going to be more battle of the pitchers. It's more battles of our hitters as well, especially from game 2. I think first game was a little scary, just with Kershaw getting real hot, and even Mookie Betts has been he did really well in the first game as well. So as a Rays fan, I was a little worried, but I think what the Rays need to do after these first 2 games to win this series from here is, first, I do want to highlight Nick Anderson. I think he needs to start working things out. I think he's gonna have some more chances to definitely help out, especially when it comes to closing games. He was the best reliever, in my opinion, in baseball for a while, maybe prior to this month, and the Rays have been using him maybe a little too aggressively, that it'd be easy to see him named, maybe the MVP of the series, especially when it comes to those close games, if they do happen in the future. But he's been having some kind of rough performances, kind of some bad outings of the year. He hasn't been too hot, and even with game 2, I don't know how to what to say other than it's kind of he's kind of, maybe his performance has really changed. I mean, this guy has been given some really good hits, some home runs, but this is also the same guy who has allowed a run in only 5 of his 42 regular season appearances with Tampa. So to be fair, Anderson, did record, maybe he also did record the biggest out of game 2. He entered with runners in the corners and 2 outs in the 5th inning, with Justin Turner at the plate representing the tying run. And, he blew a fastball right by him for the inning-ending strikeout. So, overall, this is something that's really iffy. I think what it really comes down to is who's kind of just, this is really a mental game for me. I think the first game with Kershaw just dominating, I think it just it got to the Rays a little too much mentally, especially when this isn't just any pitcher. This isn't just some random pitcher on the Dodgers that, hey, this guy's looking really hot tonight. This is Clayton Kershaw. So this is something that if you are on the Rays, you're a little worried. You're thinking, oh, yikes. Well, being who he is, he's probably not going to stop. And if he does, the only way he will is, if we start kind of, we get some good hits, we play smart. But This is just going to come down to the mental game. This is going to be more of a battle between who kind of starts out right. We had a really nice start in game 2 compared to game 1, and you know the same thing kind of goes for the Dodgers. They had a nice start to game 1, a little different start to game 2. So it's coming down to I think game 3 is going to be a really fun game. I think the first 2 games, especially with Rays winning one, the Dodgers winning the other, it's definitely got both teams feeling pumped, but also very aware of, okay, well, here are our strengths and weaknesses. Here are the things we need to kind of work on, and here are the things that have been working well for us. So I'm hoping for the best as always, but this is going to be, in my opinion, this isn't going to be a game where it's going to be going back and forth, as I already talked before. This is just going to be whoever's kind of going to start out well at first. And that may not be the case, when it comes to winning the game, but I think that is something that is going to be a big factor. But also just who is performing well, who's mentally ready. I think just seeing our different performances from different players. It's just been kind of changing it up. I am really hoping Randy Arozarena does, the Dodgers give in to him. He's been the breakout star of the postseason. He's 1 for 6. With 3 walks and a strikeout through the 2 World Series game. But hey, he's done real well. He socked 3 homers in the ALDS, 4 more in the ALCS, and that is definitely something that the Dodgers have taken notice. They're attacking him with all kinds of balls, and if anything, they're probably willing to walk him rather than give him something over the plate.
Yeah, the overall, it's like I agree with a lot of what you said. The for you Nick Anderson's kind of been disappointing. For me, that's kind of my same outlook on Peter Fairbanks. I think if there was one thing I was going to nitpick, like I said, in that middle, as soon as they took out Blake Snell in game 2, they kind of the bullpen kind of bled a little bit of run support. So it's almost like I wish that they would have put in maybe Fairbanks. I guess it tends to be the guy that goes a little bit longer in terms of pitching and innings, but Anderson obviously did a good enough job. 2 strikeouts, giving up a hit, and then Fairbanks, to me, when he comes in, he's the guy I get a little scared, because in a couple other instances in this playoffs, he's had guys on the bases and he's been putting people in scoring position, and thankfully the Rays were able to get out of everything in this game. So that's kind of who I'm hoping is going to have a really big showing from here on, is Peter Fairbanks out of that bullpen. Anderson, I think, all in all, is going to be good. It just, we're hoping that there isn't the big opportunistic, multi-run home run that seems like the Yankees were able to hit a few of them, and the Dodgers are absolutely have more than a few guys that are capable of doing that. Corey Seager could come up at any point. If there's guys on base, he's going to rake and he's going to be bringing them in. But overall, like, now that we're 2 games done, it's now with best of 5, and so by this time next week, we are going to know if your Tampa Bay Rays are the World Series champions. And so my road to the ring, my blueprint to victory, how the Rays can and hopefully will beat the Dodgers, it comes down to, it's kind of one of the things you had said earlier, Masab, and that's securing the early lead. It's about getting out in front first and foremost, and then not having to play catch up, because these Rays, I don't think they do that, they haven't done that well over the last, games in the playoffs or even kind of this whole year. But securing the early lead is definitely my first look at, on an offensive standpoint, because one of the strengths of the Rays is they know that they're going to be putting quality pitching on the mound no matter what. They play defense and they pitch well. So the only question mark is, when are guys gonna show up with the bat? You got guys, hitting in the low 200s, right? And it's thankfully there's been a hero, a guy like Mike Zunino, or a guy like Joey Wendell's kind of been this not unsung, but he's kind of been this like down in the bottom of the lineup, but he's been consistently getting on base and getting some hits and making some stuff happen. I don't want to think that they're going to rely on the long ball the whole series. I think that there will be more games that grind it out a little bit, where you're going to see the defensive shifts being a big point. You're going to see the singles and the doubles, those kind of opportunistic hits, and moving guys over and getting them into position and then getting them in, versus just kind of hitting the 2-run bomb, hitting the grand slam or whatnot. That's something I don't think the Dodgers are going to be able to do as long as you get a quality 4 to 5 innings out of your starting pitching. And so they need to, the Rays, if they can utilize this strength, right, if they can have Charlie Morton in the next game, and then maybe you see a bullpen game, but other than that, you might see Tyler Glasnow coming in on 3 days rest, and Blake Snell coming in on especially because now we have this off day here on Thursday, is that you're gonna see, I think you're just gonna see Glasnow, Snell, and Morton like in a potential Game 7, versus the Dodgers are going to have to throw, maybe Urias in starting a game. And, they did that with Gosselin. I mean, he's been a starter, but they've kind of been using him out of the bullpen as well in these kind of like Game 2 with already a 1-game lead. It's kind of like, okay, we don't have to throw like it's not do or die. Well, in those do-or-die games, the Rays have bullets in the chamber with that three-headed monster of Glasnow, Snell, and Morton. But once those guys can give you those 4 to 5 innings on this blueprint, then you hand that ball off to that stable of 98ers that we've been talking about. And I think that more often than not, I trust Nick Anderson. You were saying it earlier. He's shown that he is consistent, and he is one of, if not the best, guys out of the bullpen. And then I have faith and optimism that the Peter Fairbanks of the world won't be giving up anything in the middle of the game, because then you can bring that lead, and that you've been holding it off, and now you give it to guys like Castillo or Loop that can come in the high leverage 8th and 9th innings and close the door, just like we saw in Game 2. The other thing that's really, really imperative here is that if they can do all those things as the home team now, the Dodgers have been the home team for the first 2 games. And so now we kind of get this kind of fake travel day, where they're off. But now you reset, and now you're the home team for the next 3 games. So you've kind of stolen that home field advantage by winning Game 2. And the World Series does have that weird quirk where they play 2, the Dodgers 2, then the Rays 3, and then the Dodgers would end up being the home team for Game 6 and Game 7. Well, if the Rays can play all their cards right, they won't have to do that in Game 6 or Game 7 if they can utilize a Charlie Morton game here in Game 3, and then win either Game 4 or Game 5, and then close it out in Game 6. I have no doubt that this will go 6 or 7 games. I don't think it's going to be either the Dodgers or the Rays kind of sweeping, but I do expect the next 3 games at least to be very tightly contested and coming down to these very fundamental things like pitch well and score runs, right?
Yeah.
It's not we're not reinventing the wheel, but when you're at this level, you were saying it's a mental game. I completely agree with that. It's just, I think the Rays just have a little bit more in the pitching, and they definitely have amazing defense. Now it's just the question mark is, will you get these heroes that have risen up? And that's the last big kind of point that I'll make is that the Rays have been playing kind of whack-a-mole. The Dodgers, or even the Yankees, or even the Blue Jays. It's kind of like you hit one of the moles and then another one sticks up. In the ALCS, it was Randy Arozarena obviously having the storybook postseason as a rookie, and it was Manuel Margot, right? I mean, the guy's raking so far in the playoffs. He's hitting like over 400 in the playoffs. And you had Mike Zunino coming out of nowhere, and it's just like he's kind of feast or famine with that long ball. But then you had in the final game Mike Brosseau, right? These guys that it's kind of you think you take care of Brandon Lau. Man, Brandon Lau is not doing well here, but oh my God, here's Mike Zunino, here's Mike Brosseau, here's a guy we never even heard of, Randy Arozarena, coming out of nowhere and playing like he's a Ted Williams or Barry Bonds or something. But now in this championship series, it's like, okay, well, you're kind of minimizing Arozarena. He hasn't done amazing things for the first 2 games. Yeah, but now Brandon Lau showed back up to the party, and Joey Wendell's just been consistent in the kind of that 5 spot, 6 spot in the lineup. So it's like they do come up with these timely hits, timely home runs, sac flies, the all these things that make me very confident that this team's going to go deep down the bench, whether it's the bullpen or whoever's, if it's Diaz, if it's Brosseau, if it's guys like Wendell or Adames that might not be the number 1 choice offensively, but someone's going to come up, and that's one of these things when you're kind of a team of destiny, right? They kind of talk about these teams of destiny, and it's one of those things where every day you show up to the ballpark, I think that everyone is confident that this game could be my game. This could be the Kevin Kiermaier, home run game. This could be the Randy Arozarena 3 RBI, 3 hit game. This could be, Hunter Renfroe coming in as a pinch hitter and hitting a crazy shot, against the Dodgers bullpen late in the game, right? It's kind of one of those things where it reciprocates with the bullpen too. It's like I think Cash is confident with anyone he throws on the mound and anyone in the lineup, as long as they know that today could be my game, today could be my day, I can make my history. Then no matter when the Dodgers are playing that whack-a-mole, and it's like, okay, we've taken care of this, we've taken care of that, they can't take care of everybody. So, it is that fundamental, it is that mental game, it is that confidence boosting ability that anyone at any time could come in, and that's why I think the Rays are on the road to the ring, and that's what I think I'll be looking for this week as we go into Game 3 through Game possibly 7 on Wednesday night. So I'm excited. I think the Rays are intriguing, and I think that the Dodgers, as much of a Goliath team that they are, with Mookie Betts, right, Corey Seager, like Bellinger, all these guys, I'm confident the Rays just have that little bit more as a team than the Dodgers do.
Right, and I just want to know maybe just your thoughts about this. How will a travel day off, or really technically without travel, impact the rest of this series?
Yeah, I think it helps the Rays more than anything, is because you had, Game 1 was on Monday, right? So now when you have So you've got Glass now. He's off Tuesday, off Wednesday, off Thursday. Won't pitch on Friday. He can go on Saturday. And if Cash wants to put a bullpen game out, like say the Rays win Game 3 and they're up 2-1, maybe Cash wants to do a kind of one of those crazy starter games or opener games, right? And have like John Curtis pitch 2 or 3 innings and then hand the ball off to one of the other guys, and basically kind of say like, okay, we might use Fairbanks a little bit longer. We might put Loop in a little bit longer, but having this one little extra game that we didn't have in the ALCS, it just means that we can go back to that front of the starting rotation. So, as far as hitting goes, I think that the Rays aren't really dealing with injuries or anything, or some guy lingering that he'll be better in a couple days. To me, it's all about that pitching matchup, and in terms of the strengths, it's one that the Rays have over the Dodgers, and I think that one little game is going to be a lot of difference that you'll see that you didn't see in the ALCS.
Totally, I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, man. So looking forward to the rest of this series against the Dodgers. The other thing that we were looking forward to is our Tampa Bay Buccaneers having a statement game, having a bounce back game as the undefeated Green Bay Packers were coming into Tampa. Things went a little differently this week for Aaron Rodgers and the crew. We're going to get into all that as I'm going to ask Musab a few questions and get his thoughts on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All that and more after the break. Welcome back to RBLR Sports. We've talked a little bit about our AL champion Rays as they look to win the World Series against the Dodgers. Now let's turn our focus onto the gridiron as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to right the ship. They were able to reverse the fortune with a blowout of the previously undefeated 4-0 Green Bay Packers. So, Musab, I got to ask you, this was night and day from the performance last week. What was different about this game for the Tampa Bay Bucs versus last game?
I just want to start out with the big loss, or not really a big loss, but just the sad, tough, heartbreaking loss that the Bucs players and even the fans had to deal with against the Bears. That was something that just kind of really dug deep. So for that reason, I'll tell you what really helped was probably, my thoughts are after a loss like that and being, the Bucs as they are with such, phenomenal stars, Tom Brady, Fournette, Ronald Jones, Evans, Godwin, etc., and even a wonderful defense. I think they had a nice long pep talk, either led by Brady and Arians or just led by Brady himself, just about what we messed up on, but also how we're going to improve on this. Now looking into this Tampa Bay Buccaneers Green Bay Packers game, it was a really, I guess, interesting game to see. Definitely just so much to say, but I just do want to start out with it's been a victory week for us, and the nation watched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go against the undefeated Packers with Fox Sports America's Game of the Week. Now, I just want to highlight that this game was one of the top-rated events all across TV, especially on Sunday. First of all, being the Brady-Rodgers matchup. Second of all, just being the Packers, being undefeated so far with, as mentioned before, they got that pick with Jordan Love in the draft, and people were thinking, oh, well, what's going on with Rodgers? But Rodgers has been doing fine. Definitely not fine against the Bucs, but we'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, first of all, I just want to say that this was a really big game for both teams. So I do want to start out with, first of all, just absolutely wonderful performance, 38-10, beautiful win by the Buccaneers. The first thing I want to say is the dominating defense. Tampa Bay Buccaneers cornerback Jamel Dean, returns an interception for a touchdown against the Green Bay Packers during the second quarter of the NFL game, and it was, oh man, it was awesome, because I just want to say this was the first interception that Rodgers has thrown this season, and fortunately for us, unfortunately for the Packers, that pick led to a pick six. So this was, the Packers, they started out fine. It wasn't, obviously was it the best? No. Was it the worst? No. They were doing okay, but after that interception, for a touchdown, it just kind of just changed the whole dynamic. What kind of just jumped off the page for me was just how the Bucs were able to pivot the flow of the entire game just with a few key plays. One being the Dean interception. So I just to kind of replay it in anyone's mind, it's 3rd and 10. Green Bay Packers, it's, they got the ball with 12 minutes left in the second quarter. Packers are up 10-0. And here we go, Rodgers is dropping back, planning to throw it to his star receiver, Devontae Adams, and bam, there he goes. He's picked off by Jamel Dean, who takes it to the house for 6. And, I'll tell you this, I know there weren't that many fans in the stadium due to, coronavirus, but I could hear the crowd roar a little bit, so I'll tell you that.
Yeah, buddy. I live about 10 minutes down Del Mabry from the stadium, and yeah, if I didn't hear them, they heard me from from my house.
Oh, I bet they did.
Yeah, buddy.
And that interception was the 3rd pick six of Aaron Rodgers' career
ever. Yeah,
and ever. And you know what? The Bucs didn't stop there, not at all. Rodgers was picked off 2 minutes later by Mike Edwards, which led to a Ronald Jones touchdown. So looking at it just so far, just in the defense perspective, and then what the Jones touchdown, it was an awesome wrap to the first half. Rodgers not only threw his first interception of the year, on that drive, but it was also returned for a touchdown, just changing the whole momentum, which exactly was, the remaining course of the game. Second of all, in regards to the defense, Ndamukong Suh of the Buccaneers he was just tearing up the Packers offensive line, sacking Aaron Rodgers, as him and Rodgers have kind of had a little intensity between them two, but overall, along with Suh, overall the Bucs were able to get 5 sacks for a loss of 53 yards, and it's what I was looking at in regards to the defensive line, but specifically Ndamukong Suh I was watching myself with my own eyes. And I can't say exactly, and I can't tell you exactly what he was saying, but he was getting into Rodgers' face, kind of getting into his mind. He was talking smack, which just really got Rodgers more and more frustrated. Continue on with our defense. Devin White, has been really working on that defensive player of the year campaign. 10 total tackles and a sack. Personally, being the young guy he is and just seeing, how he's got a really big future ahead of him. I just love how this guy is able to really just get in there and be disruptive as he can be. And secondary just kept it together, and, they didn't get, any pass interferences or holding calls. And now I just want to highlight a few things on the offensive side real quick is, for those who watched, the podcast last week, I was predicting, Ronald Jones is going to rack up another 100+ yards, and guess what? He sure did. Mr. Ronald Jones racked up 113 yards on the ground with 23 carries and 2 touchdowns against Green Bay. So for all those fantasy owners, the way I'm looking at it right now, because I'll tell you this, I was thinking about picking up Fournette, but I was going to pick up Ronald Jones at first before, this season started. But, looking at it right now, even if I were to pick Fournette, I'm not really sure how I'd feel because, Jones has been fire. This was his third straight 100-plus yards game. He has, dominated the game with his legs, gave us 2 touchdowns. And this game, especially being against, the Packers, this isn't, the Giants or the Jets or the Jaguars. This is the undefeated Green Bay Packers led by Aaron Rodgers. And he proved that he can be, a really solid running back for the team. So, for all those fantasy owners, I would definitely keep in, Ronald Jones in at all times. I'm just awestruck at just how effective, he's been recently running the ball. Shout out to the offensive line, the holes that have just been opening up real well. He's able to follow the lead blocks. And let me let you know is, this is a system with no fullback. So right now he's really kind of relying on, Kappa and Marpet, 2 of the best at the guard position. Even with Fournette out, he's proven he can handle, the primary rushing responsibilities. He's nimble. He has significantly improved his yards, from 2019 to now. And he's got the, his yards of contact have definitely improved. I will say that, which is actually 8th in the most in the league. So, coming into, the Raiders game, to Tom Brady and, to anyone who's, making the plays, I say keep feeding Rojo, honestly. And overall, just some few things I'm just really been impressed with is, first of all, no penalties. Yeah. Last time the Bucs, had something like this was a while back, and this was, I believe, in 2016. So this is definitely a really wonderful performance, and really, really nice to see, after a long time that, our Bucs got no penalties. I think, I was watching the press conference a few weeks ago, just seeing, what Arians and Byron Leftwich had to say, and, they were talking about just how, all of our guys, offense and defense, had just been really aggressive. But, with football, it's really difficult to remain aggressive and not get any penalties. So, that being said, it's obviously they're not going to, stop any players from playing aggressively when it comes to penalties. In the past games, so far this season, and kind of in the history of these last few years, these pre-snap penalties have just been really killing our Bucs. A lot of penalties were costly for our Bears game, before this Packers matchup. But, just a little fun fact is, Bucs got, the second most pre-snap penalties. And, now they got one game where they didn't really have any, kind of damaging penalties. So, they've made a lot of haters believe that, hey, we're not a rough team. We have gotten down our chemistry. We're playing smart. We're careful. So, kudos to the offensive line, defensive line, on both sides. And now looking at, our receivers and tight ends, for the second game this year, Rob Gronkowski has caught the most receptions. Brady only had to throw 166 yards with 2 touchdowns, actually one which went to Gronkowski. Which, whether you're a new fan or an old fan, Gronk, and it was just really nice to see he finally got his first touchdown as a Buccaneer. So for sure, I've just been very satisfied with the performance of the Bucs, against the Packers. It was beautiful. They played smart, aggressive. Everything was working together. I think that loss against the Bears was, I think, maybe needed, in my opinion. Obviously, you don't want any loss, but a loss like that was, really tough. And I just don't think the Buccaneers were really thinking the Bears could, really pull off a win. But, I think I look at it as motivation. So to wrap it up, there was an absolutely stellar performance on defense. Offense has done a great job, no penalties. So obviously there were a couple odd plays. We had that 50-yard field goal, which was a little interesting to see. Who knows, maybe, the Buccaneers, Arians and Leftwich maybe had some good feelings about this game, that we're gonna win it. So they were like, hey, why don't we test some things out? So those are just basically kind of the key things I really have to say, when it comes to the Packers game. But Eureka, what do you have to say about the performance, with the Bucs against the Packers?
Yeah, you hit a lot of the same points. The first quarter, you're coming into this and you're thinking, okay, maybe they overlooked the Bears. Maybe they were, coming out flat, and you're thinking, oh no, this is going to happen again, because you have the Packers getting a field goal, right? But then Tampa Bay first comes out 3 and out, and then Rodgers orchestrates a 11-play, 80-yard drive to score, and then he does that little Hingle McCringleberry 2 pumps Key and Peele touchdown dance. He didn't do it complete. He looked more awkward than anything, but here he is. He's in the zone. He's cocky. He's just scored a touchdown. He's like, yeah, buddy. Well, then that pick six happened, and it was like the lights are on, but nobody's home, because from that moment at what was it, like with 12:42 left in the first quarter, or in the second quarter, from that play where the pick six up until 1 minute and 4 seconds left in the first half, they went from being down 10-0 to being up 28-10. And it just, if you look at I was looking at the drive chart, and it's like, other than that 11-play, 80-yard touchdown drive, it's pick six, 3 plays interception, then 3 plays punt, then another 3 and out, then another 3 or 5 plays, and they get 2 yards, and then it's halftime. And then all they did in the second quarter was 3 and out. They had one small 23-yard drive, but then it was 3 and out, 22-yard drive, punt, and then 3 and out to end the game. And it was just like, at that point, Blaine Gabbert was already in, and they had taken Rodgers out, and it's been 10 years since they had scored a point, and the Bucs are just doing the thing. And it was it was just shocking. I texted you during the game where I was like, oh, they just they flipped the switch and never looked back. Levante David was just flying around, shutting down the run. There was no hope that they were even going to get. That's why I had all these 3 and outs, is because they couldn't run the ball. You had Levante David going in there. You had, the passing game was just shut down completely. Dean's all over the place. Mike Edwards is all over the place. And Carlton Davis was the linebacker that tips the ball so Mike Edwards can get that second interception. But the defense just, they called 17 blitzes, okay? And on those 17 blitzes, Rodgers was 5 of 14, which is, horrendous. It's not even 30. It's a little over 30%. 2 sacks and 2 interceptions on those blitzes. When you have Levante David and Ndamukong Suh and all these guys, David had almost 1.5 sacks and 2 other quarterback hits. So when you're Rodgers, you can't hand the ball off because Levante David's right there stuffing the run. You can't throw the ball because in every other play is a blitz with someone in your face and you're getting put on your butt. And when you do throw, you try to throw against the blitz and you get intercepted. It's just, it was delightful to see for the boys in Pewter, but the Cheeseheads, not a good look for a team that was coming in as hyped as they were. But the offense just kind of did what I expect out of them, which is they're going to move the ball through the air, and they're gonna get the little chunk plays. You're going to get on that Tyler Johnson touchdown in the second quarter to put us up 21-10. That was because of good third down conversions, chunk plays, and setting up that first and goal. It was throughout the game, you had, to get into the red zone for another drive, Tom Brady gets a great pass to the returning Chris Godwin, who gets a nice catch plus yards after to get them to set up another touchdown. And that was that corner route by Rob Gronkowski to finish off the first half, which ended up being the 91st touchdown from Tom Brady to Rob Gronkowski. I believe they're number one on the list of any receivers as a duo, but it was just a complete shutout. Literally, after the first touchdown, they didn't score another point, and for the most part, they didn't get a first down on most of their drives for the rest of the game. It was beautiful, beautiful defense, and just painstakingly awesome and efficient offense by Tom Brady against a team that, like, you would think it was going to be a lot more high scoring. I mean, I think both of us thought the Bucs were going to score a lot of points, but we were expecting that offense to kind of at least have a shootout going on and scored. I think we had 20 plus points apiece. We thought they were going to score. So that was the most surprising thing, is that they went to the schoolyard, they punched the bully in the mouth, they kept punching the bully in the mouth, and the bully never got up off the ground. I mean, if this was high school, they would have kind of called the mercy rule by the end of the third quarter, which is about when I went out for another had another pizza delivered. By the third quarter, it was like, hey, it's time to party, man. We got this thing in the bag, man. But yeah, that's overall my thoughts of that game.
Definitely. I definitely do want to say that, you and I both discussed last week in regards to just our predictions for the score. I was expecting Green Bay, just being the undefeated team they are, being led by Aaron Rodgers. I would probably expect them to score more. Was expecting a little more from Devontae Adams. Fortunately, as a Bucs fan, I'm happy he got contained. But it was, as you said, you were expecting a shootout, and so was I. But if anything, and as I was expecting really more, was the defense was just absolutely phenomenal. They were ridiculous. They just did a phenomenal job. I was really happy of what they were doing. Obviously coming from that, that Bears loss, you're thinking, okay, well, obviously they're going to learn their lesson. But you just don't know how much, especially with, the way I look at it is, the Bears and the Packers are, completely different teams. So for that reason, it's thinking, all right, well, obviously we're going to do a lot better than we did against the Bears, but how much, how better are we going to perform? And, defense answered that question for me, which was we're gonna go off. We are gonna play aggressive, but we're also gonna play smart. So definitely a shout out again, just to defense. I've just been really happy, and I think if anything, this is a super awesome opportunity for the Bucs to continue going to win games. And the Bucs defense is going to be a huge, contributing factor to helping the Bucs continue. So
yeah,
definitely a shout out to them.
Yeah, and I hope that the defense keeps the ball rolling as now the 4-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers are traveling to face the 3-2 Las Vegas Raiders, who they're coming off the bye week. The last game they played was against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they pulled out that victory. So my question is, I think we've seen what we both expect to be the true Buccaneers team with this game against the Packers. Now, we might not have expected it to be the 38-10 blowout, but we definitely saw that this is what the Bucs look like when they're firing all cylinders. So, what challenge do you think the Las Vegas Raiders pose to the Bucs?
Well, I think if anything, the two big challenges, or the first big challenge I want to highlight, is Derek Carr's laudable aggression. He's been doing really well, and I think maybe the way any sports analyst or any fan, of the Bucs or the Raiders is looking at it is, okay, well, Rodgers was expecting to be real hot, against our Bucs. But how about Derek Carr? He's been performing really well. He's been doing a great job for fantasy owners as well. So, I'm thinking about it as this is a perfect Sunday night matchup between two improved teams that I think both will make the playoffs / should make the playoffs. The Bucs pass rush will be tested against the Raiders' excellent offensive line. John Gruden, former Buccaneers coach, and Derek Carr, going to team up against the Bucs, and they've already had some experience with Kansas City's playmaking defense. But I think they've had that experience. They're gonna play their cards right. But in regards to other than Derek Carr, when I'm looking at kind of the rest of the Raiders' offenses, 1 week after slowing Devontae Adams, I think our cornerbacks, especially Carlton Davis, he's going to get a test against Henry Ruggs III. Yeah. The Raiders' offense, can't speak enough of the defense yet, but it's going to be definitely a really good matchup, against our Bucs defense, and a really, really good test. I think the biggest mismatch here is Tampa Bay's offensive line against the Vegas defensive line. But for that reason, I think it's going to allow Tom Brady to find plenty of time to find open receivers. The Buccaneers, it's the way I'm kind of looking at it, tough loss against the Bears, great win against the Packers. I'm looking at this game more as a clean slate. Hey, we've had our ups and downs in our first few games. Tough loss against the Bears, wonderful performance against the Packers. So it's kind of looking at it like, all right, well, we're on a clean slate now. As long as we keep playing hot, we can definitely make the playoffs. So this is going to be a nice experience, playing in Las Vegas for the first time at the Allegiant Stadium. They're going to try to get their third win against an AFC West opponent, but also just most importantly, they're going to try to prove that their dramatic and dominant win over Green Bay just wasn't a fluke, and it's going to be a start of a run to the playoffs. And before I continue, just so as I always do, I do want to just give a little prediction about the score. Yeah, here we go. just so I get the fans on their seats is. The way I'm looking at it, especially analyzing and, learning and, kind of taking some notes down from, the Bucs-Packers game is our Bucs defense is performing really well, and I trust them a lot for this game against the Raiders. Offense has been looking real hot. I think I'm looking at the player injury reports. We got some healthy players. I haven't looked up Chris Godwin yet, but will he be playing or no?
I've seen everyone's questionable, but no one is doubtful. As we look at this here on Thursday night, right? But yeah, that's what I saw. Questionable.
Right. So I think my hot take is I'm thinking Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31, Las Vegas Raiders 17.
17. Okay.
Yeah, and just to kind of back that up a little bit is. First of all, Tom Brady is playing efficient football. Bucs defense is playing physical football. Tampa Bay is looking like a tough team to beat, and they're going to go to Vegas and win big, in my opinion, if they do everything well. Second of all, there's been some reports just with some COVID issues with the Las Vegas offensive line. So that being said, I just don't think they're ready to deal with one of the best defenses in the NFL right now. And this is a defense, we haven't seen since the days of Warren Sapp. So this is definitely something really, really to look forward to. I'm looking at it as in a young new Raiders team versus a Bucs team that has had some struggles in the past. But now we have the GOAT quarterback, Tom Brady. We got some offensive weapons, defensive weapons. Oh man, where do I start? Devin White, Sue, Shaq Barrett, Golston. So it's looking really, really good. And even our secondaries, Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, Murphy Bunting. Man, I'll tell you this, at 4:05 p.m. you can catch me on my recliner with some popcorn,
Yeah, buddy.
maybe a nice cold beer.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm definitely making sure I watch this game from the start of the national anthem to the post game interview, whether that be by John Gruden or Bruce Arians. Now, just some kind of, I would say, some bold predictions, for Week 7 against the Raiders. I'm thinking Tom Brady will be throwing 3 touchdowns in his first. Yep, in his first season with the Buccaneers. So far, I like him. He's been stellar. Future Hall of Famer, has now thrown for over 1,500 yards. He's completing about 65% of his passes and only 4 picks. The Raiders' defense right now is 25th in the league, in passing yards per game. So that being said, I'm looking for the Raiders and the Buccaneers to sling it all over the field. Brady's will throw at least 3 touchdowns in this game, carrying over the momentum he built in Week 6 against the Packers. Second thing is Mike Evans. He's going to catch at least 5 balls for 90 yards total. Mike Evans, undoubtedly one of the best playmakers in the NFL right now. Big, strong, athletic body. In his first season with Brady, as the leader of the team, he's had 23 receptions for 281 yards and a total of 6 touchdowns in 6 games. Still, in the past games, he is still, he's not 100% super hot and healthy. Still got a low ankle sprain, but I'm definitely looking for Evans to play against the Raiders, with some great performance. And he's going to give a challenge to the defense. Second of all, with Evans is, just not being able to explode off his injured ankle. His 6'5" frame is definitely going to make him unguardable, especially in the red zone. So, what I'm looking right now is, and what I'm thinking is, if anything, I'm thinking, if he's not really feeling too hot in the beginning of the game, I can count on Ronald Jones and Gronkowski and, some other offensive weapons to definitely keep, pushing the whole team down the field towards the red zone. And Evans he's a deadly weapon in the red zone. He's developed great chemistry with Brady, so I'm definitely looking for some key passes and some really big moves by the whole Brady Evans connection. Third, he's already done it 3 times. I think he's gonna do it again. Ronald Jones will rush for at least 100 yards.
Another one.
And I'll tell you this. If the Raiders decide, hey, we're gonna have to contain Evans, in the red zone, I'm thinking he's gonna get at least 1 touchdown in the red zone. Overall in the season, Jones has carried the ball about almost 100 times, almost 500 yards as well. And he got 2 touchdowns against the Packers, so he's entering the Raiders game in a nice groove offensively. The Raiders are 22nd in the NFL, actually, with defensive rushing yards per game, and the O-line with Kappa and Marpet helping Ronald Jones out. They're going to keep improving. They're going to be setting up Jones to have a nice big day. My last bold prediction is, the Buccaneers, they're going to end up with this game as 5-2. Behind Brady, the Buccaneers, they're going to finish off Carr and the Raiders Sunday night, or actually I would say Sunday evening, really more, on a 5-2 record. That game against the Packers was a statement game. I'll say that it was a statement game. And no matter what anyone says, but maybe the Packers are kind of rusty and Rodgers is feeling off, it doesn't matter. I can't. There can't be really any more excuses because they were undefeated coming into Tampa Bay. The way I'm thinking about it, and as a Bucs fan, is I'm hoping the Raiders are going to be a little rusty against the Buccaneers since they are coming off their bye week. So Buccaneers, in my opinion, are going to come out aggressive on both sides of the ball. Bruce Arians' offense is going to go for some nice home run plays to get Brady's arm loose, and definitely going to kind of get the whole momentum going. The pressure that Carr is going to go through with our D line it's definitely going to affect him. Whether that, even if he does get some small completions, it's definitely going to affect him a lot. So overall, this is going to be a really good game. This is going to be for all those haters. This is going to be a game that our Bucs prove to you that we're the real deal. We haven't been in the playoffs since 2007. And this season, we got a great opportunity to snap that streak this season, especially with Brady leading the way. So a win against the Raiders is another step in accomplishing that goal.
Absolutely, man. I think the only things I would add to that is like you're saying, strength versus strength, right? Being the Buccaneers defense, against that Raiders offense, right? This is going to be a really, really good matchup between the two teams where, the Raiders offense is dynamic and they rack up over 30 points a game, and they give the ball to Carr and they let him do work. And this year he's been more than adequate. He's leading the league in completion rate. He's completing 73% of his passes. Crazy. He's already racked up over 1,400 yards, and that's because he's got deep ball threats. You have, like you brought up Ruggs. You also have Aguilar, who he's not a number one receiver or anything, but you've got Nelson Aguilar, and they spread the ball out. They look to throw for the majority of their offense. I mean, throwing has been it's been about 70% of their offense. So running the ball isn't what they do, and almost to a fault. I mean, they were up by 6 late in the game against Kansas City, and they're still spreading it out and throwing the rock. They're not trying to take time off because there was only maybe 6 minutes left in the game. They're not trying to take the ball, cloud of dust, 3 yards in a cloud of dust to kind of kill the clock. No, man, they're passing every down. They created a 3rd and long for themselves that they almost got beaten up about. But that aggressive play calling, might actually kind of be a little bit of that death knell against this blitzing crazy good defense by the Tampa Bay Bucs. If you were saying that the one mismatch is the defense of the Raiders against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, and I agree with you on that. I mean, the Raiders, as much of a dynamic offense as they have almost that much of a liability on defense. They give up over 30 points a game, and they give up over 274 passing yards a game, which is just about what the Bucs average per game. So it's like this offense for the Buccaneers should be able to do what they want. They should be able to cook as they need, and I think the only thing that the Raiders have, if they're going to have a shot, is to try to contain Mike Evans and try to contain Chris Godwin. And that's why I think in this matchup, this is going to be one of those Scotty Miller, Cameron Brate, one of these guys that you can only contain so many of these weapons because Brady's going to spread it out. I mean, Brady did throw a lot to Godwin. It's nice to have another Ferrari in the garage, right? You're not just relying on Gronkowski or Evans. So with Godwin, with Evans, with Gronkowski on the field, you got to pick your poison. And unfortunately, I think you're going to see that's a soft defense give up shots to Scotty Miller or maybe Ronald Jones out of the backfield, or maybe LaShawn McCoy catching something out of the backfield. But they might try to limit the Bucs to make them do a lot of this kind of dink and dunk stuff. However, it's the levees are going to break at some point. You can't contain everybody that the Bucs have, and at the end of the day, my prediction is very similar, but I think it's going to be a little more of a scoring shootout. I think that Tampa Bay is going to beat Las Vegas 34-27. I have the same concern about the offensive line with those kind of COVID-19 distractions. But I think that Tampa Bay might actually take a large lead in the beginning, and some of those 27 points that I'm guessing are going to come from maybe some garbage time touchdowns or them trying to pass the ball and kind of make up for being down by 2 or 3 scores late in the game. But all in all, the Raiders are no joke. I mean, they've had to play playoff caliber teams in Buffalo, Kansas City, and they're coming off a bye, so they have a little bit. That's why the offensive line COVID stuff, it doesn't worry me as much as, say, the New England Patriots had to go when they went against the Denver Broncos. I mean, it was obvious that their schedule being messed up, it threw someone off, and they lost to the Broncos. But with that bye week, they were able to kind of throw the offensive line into isolation and all these things. But you can isolate yourself from COVID-19. I would be more scared of Ndamukong Suh and Levante David coming down the barrel next week or this week. So all in all, I agree with you. I think that the question is the Bucs team that we saw against the Packers the real Bucs, or are they going to be the losing in a shootout to New Orleans team? Are they going to be the lose by 1 point last second, penalty-ridden team they were 2 weeks ago against the Chicago Bears? Or are they the consistent team that put away Denver? Are they the consistent team that put away the Carolina Panthers? Are they going to be able to get another 100-yard rushing performance from Jones? All those things, I think, are questions that me and you are both confident about the Buccaneers' chances, and I'm looking forward to another win and a 5-2 Buccaneers team as we move on towards the playoffs. Yeah, man. So, I mean, we can't overlook before we get out of here. We've talked about our championship caliber Rays. We've talked about our playoff and championship caliber, hopefully, Buccaneers. But we have one other team, and that is the Tampa Bay Rowdies. They are facing Louisville City in the Eastern Conference Finals this Saturday, 7:30 on ESPN+. And the Rowdies, of course, they're the underdogs. Of course they are. 538 has put together a kind of a statistical analysis saying that it's a 62% chance that Louisville advances, but that same prediction system says that the Rowdies and Louisville City are pretty even when it comes to expected goals scored. So here's I didn't know a lot of this. I had to look all this stuff up. But Louisville City, looking for their 4th consecutive Eastern Conference Championship. They were the champions 3 years ago. They were back-to-back champions 2 years ago. And they made it to the finals last year, and they lost. And here they are for the 4th year in a row, looking to go to the well, actually, it's the 6th year in a row they're looking to go. But if they win against the Rowdies, it'll be their 4th straight Eastern Conference Championship. I say it's time for someone new. It's time for a good-looking green and yellow team like the Rowdies. We don't care that they beat us last year in the playoffs and bounced us from the first round almost a year to the day. We don't care about that. You know why? Because the Rowdies, they've got a little bit of luck on their side by a super sub named Lucky Mkasana, who scored the deciding goal in the 1-0 victory against Charleston last week to get our Rowdies to the Eastern Conference Championship. And here's a little secret. He played last year for Louisville City, so he knows all the tactics. He knows all the guys. And he decided to come to the good team, to come to the Rowdies. And it's one of the reasons why I think our Rowdies are going to continue this Cinderella run all the way to the USL Finals. Man, I still, Musab, I haven't bit the bullet and got ESPN Plus, but I might do that. I mean, I'll put it right here. Here's a bold prediction: if the Rowdies are going to the championship, then I'm at least starting the free trial on ESPN Plus so I can watch.
You know what, Eureka, I will too. Honestly, I had it for a bit.
Yeah.
And just seeing what ESPN Plus has to offer, I definitely do like that they have all kinds of sports. But at the time that I did have the subscription, I was a broke college student.
Yeah, buddy.
And wasn't really using it too much, so it wasn't really catering to my needs. So for that reason, I stopped. But I will say this: if they do win, I will try the free trial, definitely for sure.
Buddy.
And kind of just analyzing and just reading on what Louisville City and the Rowdies have been dealing with this season so far in their history is, the way I'm looking at it, and just what I've read and watched so far, when it comes to highlights, is this is probably going to be City's toughest test to date with the Rowdies. The Rowdies finished with the second highest regular season point total. They have swept their past two playoff opponents with a combined 3-goal scoring differential. So with the USL Cup berth on the line, both teams are going to be gearing up to face the challenge. It's definitely going to be a good one, and I can't say much about the whole Louisville area and everything like that, but I will say, just seeing what our Rays have been doing, our Lightning has been doing, wonderful win we had with our Bucs going against the Packers. For true Tampa Bay sports fans, they are really going to be rooting hard for our Rowdies. And, for even our Rowdies players and our staff, obviously they're not in some super, big league. They're not in MLS.
Sure. Not yet.
But, if you're from Tampa, you know of the Rowdies at least. Whether you watch them or you don't, you know of the Rowdies. So for that reason, I think, the Rowdies got a little pressure on them that, hey, our Bucs have been doing real good. Our Rays and Lightning have just been booming. One of them, being champions in their league. So we don't want to be that team that doesn't do well. But hey, we're in the playoffs now. We're looking real good. We're winning our games. So regardless of what happens with this game, I think Rowdies fans and Tampa Bay is still going to be proud of how far the Rowdies have come. And overall, just soccer in America is getting a lot more popular. And, our Rowdies organization it's definitely a very young organization. So, it's not like things are going to go downhill from here. So for that reason, I'm rooting for them. I hope the game goes well. Regardless of what happens, I'll still be really happy of what they've done. Just overall, Tampa has just really put themselves on the map.
It's our time right now, baby. It's our
And
time.
obviously, we don't have an MLS team, which is okay. But for true soccer fans, they know of the USL, they know of the Rowdies, so they're gonna appreciate whatever the Rowdies have done, whether that be losing this upcoming game against Louisville City, or winning and continuing on with the playoffs. So that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean they're the underdog, but they're our guys. You're right. They're and we're riding that train. I mean, I know this has nothing to do with each other, but hey, man, Lightning won the cup. They made the finals, right? The Rays made the World Series. They're in the finals. So our Rowdies are just 90 plus minutes away from pulling off their own upset, getting all the way to the finals, and bringing the USL Championship home. They're the underdogs, but they're our lovable guys, and we are your lovable podcast hosts. And I got to say, what you can do to help us make it further in our journey, as all of our teams are making it through their journey, is if you're on social media, check us out. We're at RBLR Sports on all major forms of social media. We're on Instagram. We got a Facebook page. We got a YouTube channel. You name it. And if you're listening to us on any one of the podcast services like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher or Google Podcasts, go ahead and remember to like and subscribe so that you get this updated into your feed at all times. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell so it notifies you every week about when we post content, and that just helps us out just that much more. And if you're feeling really, really like you want to get engaged, why don't you shoot us a voicemail? We're at 813-778-5280. If you leave a voicemail under a minute, please, under a minute, we will pick through the questions, and we'll make sure that Musab and myself answer your questions. So please feel free, reach out on social media. We're on YouTube, we're on the podcast, and even if you're on the landline, man, leave us a voicemail, 813-778-5280. So Musab, man, I think it's time to get out of here. Anything else for us before we go?
Nothing really. Just a thank you to all our listeners, and just a shout out to all the fans, whether they be Bucs fans or Rays fans and Rowdies fans. You know, regardless of what will happen in the future with our teams and what has happened, it has been minus the whole pandemic. It has been a wonderful year for Tampa Bay sports. We have put our city on the map. This is something to be proud of, and things are just going to get better and better from here. I think I'm getting really good vibes for next year, the year after, and the year even after that. So, if anything, just keep rooting, be proud of who you are, be proud of being from Tampa, and thanks again.
Couldn't have said it better myself, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Let's go Rays. Raise up. Let's get the World Series, baby. Here we go.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you next week, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.